Okay, so how much of experience do you have overall?
Yeah, I have currently total of 5.4 years of experience, and out of that, I have worked on a Spring Boot for almost around 2 years, and in core Java on all these 5.4 years.
So what other technologies you have worked on apart from Spring Boot, Java?
Yeah, I have experience on microservices. I also have experience on MySQL and also little bit of on MongoDB. Also, occasionally I can make some changes to the front end side as well. Like I can do the changes in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Yeah, so these are the technologies mostly I have worked on.
Okay, okay, okay. So do you have experience on Active MQ or any other messaging queue?
Yes, sir, I have experience on that.
Okay, can you tell me about your current project and also what other technologies you are using in that?
Yeah, sure. Currently, I'm working on a, warehouse management system. So that is for the client in the e-commerce supply chain domain. So basically, this warehouse acts as a intermediate between the manufacturers and online customers. And this is also used for storing and tracking inventory that is later shipped based on the online orders. So the system has basically we can say two types of users. So one is admins and one is the application users. So admin is the one who can manage the user role, including activation, deactivation, or locking of the accounts. And application user are like who interact with inventory and shipment modules. So we have various modules in that, like we have inventory management. Excuse me. So we have inventory management, we have a shipment module, user management. So this inventory management tracks item quantity and its movement and all that. So all this tracking happens in real time. And also this shipment module that manages incoming and outgoing shipments, delivery tracking and status updates. And user management that handles authentication and other roles things. So this is what is about the project, and we are using Java 8 in this, and Spring Boot we are using in that, Spring Data JPA, and we are also using MySQL for the backend side, and RabbitMQ we are using for the messaging between the microservices. So we are using Docker for the containerization, and we are using Postman for the testing of the API, and we are using Git for the version control.
Okay, fine. So how you are managing inventory in real time, as you said?
Yeah, for that we are using RESTful APIs and asynchronous processing. So whenever there is a transaction that affects inventory, so like suppose any item is received, an item picked for the shipment, or item is returned, then the relevant microservices that calls the inventory service API. Okay, so that updates the items like stock quantity and all. And there is another scenario like for the operations that involves multiple services, like suppose we have order placement or shipment. So in that case we are using RabbitMQ to send inventory events asynchronously, and that is how we are doing the asynchronous call between the microservices. Yeah, so yeah, that is how we are tracking all that.
Okay, okay, fine. So in your scenario, what happens if the inventory update message fails to deliver or service crashes during the update? So what happens?
Yeah, for that we use multiple mechanism like fault tolerance and data consistency we try to maintain. So suppose we enable publisher, the enabled publisher confirms to ensure that the message are successfully delivered to the broker. But if confirmation fails, then we retry the sending the message. So that is one thing. So we do the retry, and we also write the fallback methods. for the failure scenarios, and the alternate method we can call. So those kind of things we do.
Okay. Okay. So how many types of memory management are there in Java?
Yeah, we have I think five. So we have heap memory management, we have stack memory management, and method area, then PC registers, native method stack. Yeah, so these are the ones.
Can you explain heap memory and stack memory?
Yeah, heap memory is basically that is used for dynamic memory allocation of Java objects and whatever the JRE classes are there, and it is managed by the garbage collectors. So it automatically frees up the memory used by the objects that are no longer reachable. So that is heap memory. And stack memory is used for the method execution and storing local variables. So method call information and references also to the objects in the heap are stored in this stack memory. And memory is allocated and deallocated in like last in first out manner automatically when method are called and returned. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. Let's take a scenario. You are working on your code and all of a sudden you see out of memory error. Okay. And that too is in production. So how would you debug it?
Yeah, if it is out of memory error, it means that the heap space has exhausted, so there is no more memory in the heap memory. We will try to understand the error, and then we will check the JVM heap setting. Like we can give the maybe we can maximize the size minus XMS, and also using that we can maximize the heap size. And after that we can configure JVM, and we can give some path where the heap dump can be generated. So we will gather the generated heap dump, and again after that we can use a visual VM for the analyzing of the heap dump. And then in that tool we will try to look for the any object which is consuming large amount of memory or something like that. So we will check that. We will also check if any kind of memory leak issue should not be there in the code. So yeah, so these are the steps basically we will follow.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. What is the difference between string builder, string buffer?
Yeah, string is immutable, and it's once created it cannot be modified. Okay, so that is string. Then string builder is mutable, and it is not thread safe. Basically string builder and string buffer both are mutable, but string buffer is thread safe, so means that is synchronized. So yeah, so this is the difference between these three.
Okay. So can you tell me the scenario when we should go for using string buffer?
Yeah, string buffer, as I said, it is thread safe, and we use it mostly in the multi-threaded environment. So let's say the scenario we have is like we have a web server, and that is handling multiple requests simultaneously. Okay, and suppose we are writing the log for each request. So in this case, it's better to use a string buffer instead of string builder, because this if suppose if multiple thread call log method, so in that case string buffer which is synchronized, so that prevents the data um, like being generating the inconsistent result. Okay, so there will be no inconsistent result, and it will be logs will be printed one after another, because at a time only one thread can come. But if we will use string builder, so in that case it might corrupt the data, and it might not be the useful. So yeah, in this kind of scenario we can use a string buffer.
Hmm. Okay, good. Okay, how does Java ensures thread safety?
Thread safety, a synchronized keyword or synchronized block can be used for that.
Okay, that is the only way.
No, there are many ways. So after this synchronized, we have a volatile keyword is there. So using that, visibility changes to variables can be done across all threads. And also we have concurrent collections are there. Like concurrent hash map is there, copy on write array list is there. So those can be used. And then I think atomic is there. So that also can be used for the thread safety. And then also using thread safe classes, as I told, like string buffer, and then vector is there, hash table is there. So those also can be used, although they are very old, but yeah. So these are the ways are there.
Okay. Okay, what is the difference between equals and double equal to?
Double equal to is used to compare the references like memory address, not the content. And equals method is used for the actual content, I mean, of the two objects comparison. So that is the major difference. So for example, let's say we have a string class, and we say string a equal to new string of, let's say, anything xyz, and again we have string b equal to new string of again xyz only. So both the content is same. So whenever we are going to say a double equal to b, in that case it will return false, because the memory is different for these two. Okay. And if we say a equals b, in that case it will return true because the content is same.
Okay. Okay, what is the difference between transient and volatile variables?
Transient is used during the serialization to skip the fields. So suppose we have any bean class, or that has the various properties. Okay, let's say user bean class is there, and it has a username, password, ID, and so many fields. So suppose we don't want password to be the uh, to be serialized. So in that case, we can use transient on top of password, and that will not be serialized. Volatile, that is that is used to change the variable. I mean, volatile ensures that the changes to a variable are immediately visible to all threads in multi-threading. So that is what is volatile.
Okay. And what is enum?
Enum.
Yes.
Yeah, enum is used to represent the fixed set of constants. So let's say we have weekdays, right? So Monday, Tuesday to till a Sunday. So those things, if we want to use in our code, in that case, we can go with that. So, or for example, if it is like gender, then we can say male, female, other. So those fixed constants we can give in the code. So that is the purpose of enum actually.
Okay, suppose you have a final variable int a equal to 20. Okay. So can you assign it to another variable?
Uh, int a equal to 20 final. Yeah, we can assign its value to another variable. Like we can say int b equal to a, but we cannot change the value of a. So assignment can be done, but the value cannot be changed.
Okay. Okay, what is the superclass of exception? That throwable is the superclass. Okay. So what is custom exception? Can you explain?
Yeah, so to create the custom exception, we can use like we can extend that custom exception with runtime exception, and we can define constructor to accept the messages. And again, in Spring Boot, we can use at the rate of controller device with at the rate of exception handler to handle the exception globally. And once this is done, so then we can return a structure response with message and timestamp whatever we want, so we can return that as a part of method. So that's how we can handle exception.
Okay. But can you explain the whole hierarchy of the exception?
So yeah, sure. So we have a throwable class at the top, and then under throwable we have exception and error. And exception again can be divided into two parts, like checked and unchecked exception. So this is the whole hierarchy. Now like error is something which is we can say which we cannot handle, and that is irrecoverable situation. So for example, we have out of memory error, stack overflow error, so these will come under the error. And then again in exception we have checked and unchecked. And checked exception is something which is going to happen at the compile time. So for example, we have input output exception, SQL exception, file not found exception. So all these are checked exception. And then unchecked exception are like that happens at runtime. So classes that extends the runtime exception, so that is unchecked. And the examples, like we can say, like array out of bound exception is there, null pointer exception is there, arithmetic exception is there. So that we cannot determine in pre, I mean at the compilation time and all, right? So that is that happens at the runtime. So yeah, so this is, yeah, what is the whole hierarchy.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can you override private or static methods?
Private method cannot be overridden because it is not visible outside of the class. So that is obviously that cannot be overridden. And static method also cannot be truly overridden because they belong to the class, not to the object. But if we define a static method with the same name in the child class, then we say it method hiding, not overriding. So it looks like it is overriding, but it is not.
Okay, so have you used a hash map in your project?
Yeah, I have used it. So like whenever we have the scenario like to store the value in key value pair forms, then in that case we use a hash map.
Okay. Okay, what is the difference between hash map and tree map?
Tree map usually we use whenever our requirement is to sort it by keys. So it can be done either through the natural sorting order, or we can use custom comparator. But hash map is having no ordering thing. Okay, so whatever the keys are stored, that is like in random order. So that is the first and main difference. And after that, underlying data structure is hash table in case of hash map, and in tree map it is red black tree. And both of these are not thread safe. Yeah, so this is what is the main difference between these two.
Okay, can you explain with respect to null keys and values? So which one can allow null and which one cannot?
Yeah, so null keys and values in case of hash map, it allows one null key and it can have multiple null values. But in case of tree map, it does not allow null key, but it allows like null values.
Mhm, okay. Okay, so why do you think tree map does not allow null keys but it allows null values?
Yeah, I think it is because of the sorting thing. So tree map sorts the keys using like either comparable or it may use custom comparator. So if we insert null key, then the tree map should come. I mean that will be using a null key, and that will be used for the comparison. So whenever the comparison will happen, then it will throw the null pointer exception. So that's the reason I think why it is not allowed. And values are anyway they are not going to be compared, so there is no need to I mean not allowing the null values. So yeah.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, so let's assume one scenario. So you have a class test, okay? And in this test, you have the two methods with same method name, but the parameter is different. Parameter is one has a string s and another has object, okay? Now from the main, suppose we are creating the object and we say that object dot method and we pass null in it, okay? So which method will be called? Like the one which is a string or the one which is object?
uh, so you mean we have the same method name but the parameters are different? So one is string and one is object, and we are trying to call them using the null value.
Yes, correct.
uh, so it will choose a string because uh, Java, like mostly it chooses the most specific method. So when we have to resolve the overloaded method calls, so both can accept null. String and object both can accept null, but string is more specific than object because string is the subclass of the object. Okay, so in this case, string will be called.
Okay. So now let's say what if the both methods are equally specific? So let's say we have the method integer I and another method is double D, and then we are trying to call with null. What will happen then?
Yeah, if it is equally specific, then I think uh, it will throw compilation error, I think. So yeah, it will throw compilation error.
Okay, okay, correct. Okay, so what is the difference between Spring Boot and Spring MVC?
Yeah, Spring MVC is basically it is a model view controller. That is the full form, and it's a web framework, and that is the part of the like whole Spring framework. So Spring MVC basically it allows developers to build web application. So whenever our requirement is to build web application and RESTful services using MVC design pattern, then we go for the Spring MVC. And Spring Boot, like that is a framework built on top of Spring, and it uses the Spring MVC internally, but it provides some additional thing on top of it. So it provides auto configuration, and boilerplate codes has been removed, and the embedded server it has like Tomcat, Jetty and all, and starter dependencies and minimal or there is no XML configuration thing is there. So that's the Spring Boot. So yeah.
Okay. And what is dispatcher servlet?
Yeah, dispatcher servlet we can say it is kind of initial or central controller in the Spring MVC framework. So it handles all the HTTP requests and whatever responses are there in the web application. So basically this dispatcher servlet is the front controller in the Spring MVC. So if you see on the high level, whenever the client sends any request, so first of all, it goes to the web.xml or If it is a Spring Boot, then it auto configures the dispatcher servlet, and if you're using MVC, then it goes through the web.xml. And then further dispatcher servlet finds the appropriate controller using the handler mapping, and then it invokes that controller method and it returns the model and view object, and then it further goes to the view resolver, so that resolves the view, like if it is JSP or JSON, whatever it is, and then the response is further rendered and sent back to the client. So that's the like whole high level flow is there for the dispatcher servlet.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so what is Spring Boot actuator?
Yeah, actuator is used for the monitoring and managing of the application, like we have health metrics and all. So it basically provides the production ready features like this, and if we want to access it, we can access like using actuator forward slash health. If we give in the URL, then we can see the health. If we say actuator forward slash info matrix, so all that we can access and we can see the details. So yeah, that's what is the actuator.
So how do you define any custom properties in Spring Boot?
And that we can do like in the properties file we have, right? So in application.properties or application.yaml file, suppose we have any properties, any key is there, let's say any message is there, and that we want to access into the Java, then we can use at the rate of value, and then we can just give like dollar sign before that, and we will be able to access it. We can also access that using the at the rate of configuration properties. So yeah, so these are the ways how we can access it.
So what is this difference between application.properties and application.yaml file?
Yeah, both are used for external configuration actually, so we can use either of them. But application properties, like it is the usual way, like I mean we can say traditional way of using key value pair format. But in YAML file it uses the YAML format, so it supports like nesting and readability. So for example, suppose we have server dot port if we want to give, and again server dot servlet we want to give. So like identification we have to just see in YAML file, so that is like kind of more readable, and mostly we use YAML only. So we can give server, and then in the next line one tab we can press and we can give port, and in the same tab, like same place, we can also say servlet, and we can mention the like whatever the the value is there that we can mention. So that is how like so basically this YAML file is more readable, we can say. So mostly we use that. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, so what is the difference between monolithic and microservice architecture? Give me in points. I don't need whole.
Yeah. So if we see in microservices, suppose we have any application, then in case of structure wise, we can say microservices will be having the multiple small services, and monolithic will be the single unified code base will be there for deployment. So as a single deployment unit it can be deployed, but microservices, all the microservices are deployed independently. Okay, and then also in monolithic we have to separately include the server to deploy, but in the microservices it is already inbuilt. So uh, that is also there. And for a scalability point of view, so if we want to scale monolithic, we have to scale the whole application. But in microservices, we can scale independent microservices to whatever we want. Okay. And also in monolithic one, so we have to use the single technology to develop the whole application. We cannot change it. but in case of the microservices, so different microservices can be developed with the different technologies, and different databases can be used. Also, one difference is there, like in monolithic, if suppose anything fails, any issue happens, then the whole application will be down. But in case of microservices, that can be like we can overcome with that using the fault tolerance and all. So, or retries can be done. So yeah, so that those are the differences are there. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So what is service discovery?
Yeah, service discovery enables microservices to find each other dynamically. So it maintains a registry of available services, instances, and their locations. So all are registered to here, and whenever any client request comes to the API gateway, an API gateway connects with this service discovery, and it gets the IP address of the whatever services it is looking for, and then it further connects to that, and it gets the data and gives it back to the client. So that is the role of the service discovery.
Okay. So have you worked to secure the microservices?
Yeah, I have used JWT tokens for the authentication and authorization.
Okay, okay, fine. So how many types of joins you know in SQL?
Joins are like inner join, then left join, right join, full join. So these are the joins I am aware of.
Okay. And what is left join? Can you explain?
Yeah, left join basically it joins two tables. So all the records from the left table will must be there in the result. And so basically all the records from the left table are returned along with the matching records from the right table. And if it is unmatched in the right table, then records the corresponding fields or will be appearing as the null. So the main thing is that the left side table all the records will must be there.
Okay, okay. So what is union in SQL?
A union combines the result of two queries, and it returns the like distinct rows.
So what are the SQL commands you are aware of?
We have create, select, insert, update, delete, then alter, drop, then we have commit. So all these commands are there.
Okay, so what is foreign key?
A foreign key is a column, or it it can be set of columns also. So it establishes a link between the data in two tables. Okay, so basically it refers to the primary key in other table to maintain the referential integrity. So let's say we have a table A and we have a table B. So A has a primary key as ID, and B we can say like A underscore ID or something like that. And whatever the values or primary key will be there in the table A, so only those values can be there in the this A underscore ID in the table B. So that way it can relate with the uh, I mean we can get the relationship between these two tables, and we can get the relevant data.
Okay, okay, fine. And what are the aggregated functions?
Yeah, aggregated functions are like which aggregate the things like count is there, sum, average, mean, max. So uh, these are the aggregation function.
Okay.